With the end of the war in India, the Iberian Pact, desperate to maintain its alliance with the Allies, must declare war on the Soviet Union. At midnight on the 1st of October 1949, Spain declared war on Russia, dragging in all the members of the Iberian Pact, as well as the Allies, forcing Europe into yet another conflict only a few years after World War II and the subsequent Iberian-Soviet conflict. The plan was quite simple. Our combined forces would just charge Soviet positions, taking them by surprise by doing it in the middle of autumn. Which is a stupid idea on the face of it, considering Hitler had more time before winter and still failed. Despite the utter stupidity of the plan, the garrisons in Croatia and Hungary fell rather quickly, without a shot being fired, because nobody expected the Iberians to attack them. Spain knew, however, that the rest of the campaign would not go nearly as smoothly, especially since the last time they declared war on the Soviets, they pushed them all the way back through Europe before they developed the time machine. So they decided to deploy the one weapon that could change the face of the war. Together with only their most hated enemy, the USA, the Alliance launched several nuclear strikes in areas with a high Soviet buildup, massacring all the armies there and leaving every place scorched and empty. With most of the Russian army on the European border either dead, injured, or fleeing for their safety, Operation Cortez began. A fast pincer attack through Slovakia cut off the vulnerable Soviet forces, while further south, an all-out assault was ordered on Romania. The Iberian forces attacking Kaliningrad, however, found little resistance and swiftly occupied the territory. With now some unusually warm weather on their side, the Allies joined together and scored some quick victories against the broken Finnish and Russian armies, occupying the targets ahead of schedule, while an amphibious assault from Stockholm successfully landed and took the city of Helsinki. The main Iberian army that stretched from Lithuania to Iberia and Romania had a very simple order to carry out. Forward. The plan was to grab as much as they could in the confusion before the Russians could regroup or scorch the earth. Despite the simplicity, it was a huge success. In the south, Turkish forces were also finding success, however the Caucasus Mountains seemed to have provided more protection than initially expected, so progress was slow. The next few weeks would see the Soviet forces being pushed back on almost every front, with the exception of the Romanian and Ukrainian lines. There the defenses seemed to be holding up despite the substantial pressure from the Iberians, and with the shock of the nuclear weapons now past, their offensives were cutting south towards the Black Sea and to join up with the Romanian army. To solve this problem, further use of nuclear weapons were granted to strike areas still containing heavy resistance, including Leningrad, which was under siege from all sides. The US took the authorization one step further, however, and dropped a bomb over Moscow, setting the city ablaze. Now, while Spain wanted Moscow to be a prize one with as little damage as possible, the effectiveness of the strike was clear. The nerve center of the Soviet Union was completely annihilated, and unified command fell apart shortly afterwards, and now each general commanded their own armies individually in the field. Unfortunately, this had some unexpected results, such as Leningrad surrendering to Norway, and the Soviet forces balled up in Estonia, taking everything that could float, and setting sail for the completely undefended and unpatrolled island of Gotland. Pretty much taken over the moment the first man without a warlock gun showed up. Well, whatever, despite this minor blip, the invasion continued as planned. However, the Iberians noticed something strange. The Allies were making progress at lightning speed, while they were still encountering resistance. Now, it's unknown whether the Russians had a deal with the Allies to allow them to go to Moscow, or if fighting in the sector simply collapsed, but regardless, Spain would not allow them to capture Moscow as they had Leningrad. And so a plan was hatched to divert forces away from the other areas and stage one single breakthrough just north of Moscow. With overwhelming numbers more than anything, the Iberians captured their objectives and prevented their allies from reaching Moscow. This met with great joy across all areas of the Iberian Pact. Almost a little too much. In fact, the way they were talking about it wouldn't really think the Iberians and the Allies were fighting a common enemy. I mean, Russia was also not happy about the situation, but nobody cared what they thought, especially with news of Allied success in Asia. With Moscow taken, the writing was on the wall, and the Soviet Union sued for peace. The Allies took large chunks of land in Asia and kept most of what they captured in Europe. However, the remaining land was turned over to a new pro-Iberian government who joined Spain's alliance. With this, the war was now over. Well, actually not quite, as the Estonian garrison occupying Gotland refused to surrender, so after some short negotiations, everyone agreed to recognize the True People's Republic of Gotland, or the TPRG for short. Apparently this solution was far less hassle than actually trying to retake the island. With a side note added to the treaty though, the world was finally at peace for the first time in a long time.